Twilight Syndrome. It's an incredibly intriguing series of games that stars young high schoolers as they investigate rumors of paranormal phenomenon like young people do in real life, and the rumors are often based on real life urban legends. And to make things really interesting, the cases that these young people investigate often somehow make them realize things about themselves or involve themselves in some kind of way. And these games are incredibly well told stories that, unlike a lot of other horror games, really nail tension. These games can build up to a confrontation like it's nobody's business, to the point that there's rarely, if ever, any actual supernatural phenomenon appearing on screen. But you feel it, you are right there with the people investigating. And as they get more and more tense, so do you. And that's an incredible feat for games that are just glorified walking simulators. And just experiencing them is an event, and an incredibly immersive one. I've previously explained the plot of the first game, and if you haven't watched that yet, please go do that, as the sequel picks up seconds after the ending of the first game. But if you have watched that first series, then please sit back and relax, and let me, for probably the first time in English, take you on a journey through Twilight Syndrome Kyuumei-Hen, aka Investigation. We see a child playing on a slide, and then we hear Yukari wondering who that child is, as she looks very familiar. She's then awoken by her mother, who asks her if something is wrong, and then Yukari says nothing but that she had a strange dream. Apparently a girl in the neighborhood has gone missing, and she's around the same age as the one in the dream, and the police suspects that she's been kidnapped. We then see the trio looking out at a cityscape, and Mika wants to go to the beach, but Yukari doesn't want to. They ask her if she's okay, as she's been very quiet lately, and ask if it's about Chi-chan, the girl that's gone missing. Yukari tells them about the dream and about the girl on the slide, and how Chi-chan actually disappeared from a park with a slide just like the one in her dream. She feels that the girl isn't Chi-chan but herself, or at least someone that she knows very closely from her past. Mika suggests that they go to the park and look for clues as what happened to Chi-chan, and they all agree to meet up after school, and then they go do that. Chisato and Yukari came here often as children when they were around the same age as Chi-chan. They approached the slide where Chi-chan disappeared from. Her mother was watching her but turned around for a minute, and when she turned back, Chi-chan was gone. The slide is the same one from Yukari's dream, or it's at least the same model. Mika suggests that Yukari touch the slide to create a spiritual connection between the real world object and the dream object, and maybe that can give them some clues. Yukari doesn't see anything in her mind's eye, but she definitely hears a child singing faintly, but she thinks it might just be a memory of when she used to play here and not a psychic link to that of a missing child. The trio then go to the slide and slide down, and while they feel like idiots, they also think it's kind of fun and nostalgic. Chisato used to be afraid of slides because it's said that doing the same thing over and over can transport you to another world. But, you know, she's come past that fear now. They go down the slide once again to see if they pick up any psychic links, and then again, and when they slide down a third time, a loud crackle of thunder is heard. They wander around the playground some more and reminisce about their various encounters with play swing sets. There is a man just sitting on the ground at the park. He apologizes but says that the performance is over, and then tells them about the performance and how the hero Red Mask defeated the monster octopus. They talk a little to the performer, who does a kind of serialized play for children that they come and watch at the park every day. The gang start investigating the area around the park, and they suddenly find themselves in a part of Hanashiro that they don't quite recognize, and it looks very old. They approach a policeman and says that they are lost, and he says that it's common and that people wander in here all the time who are lost. They ask which way Hanashiro High School is, and he doesn't know. But when they ask about Chi-chan, he seems to remember her, and that she headed towards the shopping district. With no other leads and not knowing where they are, they decide to head there, and as they are about to leave, the policeman says something cryptic about giving themselves up to the Twilight, and then the city will accept them. While looking for Chi-chan, they walk past all kinds of people who look like they are all out of place and confused as to where they are, and a lot of them look really strange, like they are somehow not from this time. They stumble upon a crowd watching a TV broadcast on the street. The broadcast seems to be of something that has already happened. And when they turn around to go in the direction of the shopping street, they are then stopped by an old man in a coat who is very cryptic and speaks in rhymes. He says that they are fating and that they will in time come to accept how things are around here, and then he disappears in a flash of light. When the light fades, the gang are no longer in the square they were in before, and Chisato theorizes that the place has shaped itself to make them feel more complacent, so that they will forget who they are, so that they will stay and won't attempt to leave. And then just accept that this is how things are, and stay forever. They walk around and look for a way out, and eventually ask a worker, but he's just as confused as they are and searching for the same thing. Yukari feels that something is wrong, and she asks Mika and Chisato if they can remember what one of their teachers looked like, and they can't. And Yukari feels like there are other things that she suddenly can't remember, and there are probably other things that she doesn't even remember that she doesn't even remember. They chat up an old woman who's not lost like the others, but who looks like she lives here, and she apparently knows the town. She says that if they keep wandering, it will all make sense at some point, and tells them to just enjoy the Twilight. They make a loop around town, and they start talking to the people that they have already talked to before, and they learn that the old woman was correct. The more they walk around, the more complacent they become, like the other people around here. And they can slowly feel themselves beginning to accept that this is just how things are. They return to the old woman and ask exactly what just this place is. And she says that it's Higan, a town between the world of the living and the world of the dead, where sad spirits are nursed for a while before they pass on. Since the trio isn't dead, they want to leave and tell the woman that they are not dead, and she says that's a lie, because the living cannot enter this place. The woman says that the only way out of town is the bridge that takes the spirits to the other side. And while they're talking, another crackle of thunder is heard, and then a blinding light envelops them. They are no longer where they were just a moment ago. They approach an old man who is happy to finally be crossing the bridge, and as she vanishes, they then notice a faint church organ playing in the distance and head to the nearby church and enter it, and they all cram into the confessional booth and confess that they are not here to confess but to ask a question, and their question is, how do they crush the bridge without crushing into the afterlife? Following a brief silence, a voice from the other side replies that they don't know. The priest says that if they are alive and if they are here where they shouldn't be, then there must be a reason for it. He theorizes that someone who has before been close to the world of the dead could somehow slide into this place, and asks if one of them is, and then asks how they got here, and they tell him about going down the slide multiple times, and then about the distant thunder. The priest says that because children are so close to death, they can maybe also cross over, and that because Yukari has a close connection to the child that they are looking for, they were able to follow her. He specifies that it doesn't have to be a close personal connection to the child itself, but that the child can remind a person of something about themselves. Outside the church, they all try to remember details about their lives, but can't remember what the faces of their close relatives look like anymore. As they continue looking for a way out, a glow comes over them, and it becomes so intense that it blocks out everything else. As it passes, they find that they are no longer in the old Twilight town, but somewhere more modern, and Mika, afraid that she won't get to tell the others about this, confesses her feelings for Yukari, her, how do I say this, her love for Yukari but in a platonic way, and Yukari, in a rare moment of genuineness, says that she appreciates Mika and doesn't want to forget her. They find the bridge that goes to the other side, and while they know they shouldn't cross it, it feels so tempting to do so, and then Yukari does. With Yukari gone, Mika and Chisato try and make their way back to the priest, and on the way there, they see the train from the death platform, and if it's here, then that must mean that the train is heading towards Hanashiro next, towards home. So they get on it and wait and see. And it doesn't. They somehow end up back at the church. They go and talk to the priest again and asks about Yukari, and they mention that she crossed over, and the priest says that that makes sense because she was very sensitive, and that she is the one that brought them here, and now that she is gone, the town will reject them, and they will return to the world of the living, as their anchor is now gone. They, of course, want to save her, but he says that only she can save herself, and then the blinding light returns, and Chisato and Mika are now somewhere else. A teacher is scolding Chisato for her grades dropping, and the teacher is blaming it on Mika, and that confirms that they are definitely back in the real world, and they decide to go look for Yukari here, hoping that the whole thing they just experienced in the town was just a dream. But it isn't, because Yukari is walking into the sunset still in the other world, literally and figuratively. But before she can head into the great beyond, she begins to wonder where she is, and where she's going, and where her friends are, and her thinking about her friends makes her suddenly stop so that she doesn't enter the actual afterlife. She then recognizes where she is. She is near the school, and next to her school is another school that she recognizes but can't quite place. And she hears a girl, and she decides to walk up to her. It's the girl from the dream. It's Chi-chan, except it's actually herself, maybe. She tries to talk to the girl, but she wanders off, and when she follows her into a room, she disappears. Yukari realizes that she's in the room they always walk through when they enter the school at night. Memories flood her mind, and she remembers the time Kitamura ended things with her in the wake of MF's suicide. And this is where things get mega ew. Yukari learns from a vision that Kitamura broke up with her because she was acting cavalier about their relationship and like she didn't actually care about him, so he ended things because he was hurt. Now that she knows, she regrets acting like this because she really loves him. Stay classy, Japan. The image then thankfully fades away, and Yukari comes face to face with Chi-chan. But then Yukari's memories come back once again, and she's actually able to remember Chi-chan. Chi-chan walks off, and Yukari gets another vision. It's her father, and he's here to see her because he got the day off, and that there is something that he wants to talk to her about. And it's about him and her mother getting a divorce. Yukari wanders around the school some more, and then she gets another vision. It's her fixing her bike in the rain, and then someone walks up to her, and it's Kitamura. It's the story of how they met, which again is ew. Yukari stumbles around some more, and then another flashback. It's from when Yukari was very little and met Chisato for the first time. We learn that her parents had been fighting for a very long time before they got divorced, and that Yukari from a very young age didn't want to go home, and that this is probably what led her to eventually investigating the supernatural. In another vision, Yukari and her family are having their photograph taken, and her mother is telling her to fix her collar, and Yukari is refusing, and her father is telling her to do what her mother says. And then we get the flashback of how she met Mika and how this whole thing with the Twilight investigations started. Back at the school, Yukari then suddenly finds herself in the bathroom where it all began for us, the player. And she does the ritual and then heads towards the roof. As she walks out to the roof, the girl with the bobbed hair appears, and she warns her that she shouldn't have come here to the sound of sunset. She asks her what she's doing here, and she says that she's not like the other people that normally come here, and then she asks if she wants to go home. Yukari says yes, but that she doesn't know where that is. This journey has made her realize that she's made so many mistakes in her life because she was too stubborn and proud to just tell people how she really felt about them. Instead, she just played it cool, like she always did. Things could have been so different if she hadn't always played it cool like she did. The girl says that a lot of people are calling for her and waiting for her to get back, and she tells her to listen for them. Yukari closes her eyes, but hears only the wailing of a child, and when she opens them, she sees Chi-chan, and she asks her if she's okay. Something seems to change, and she can see something in the distance that she can recognize. And then Mika and Chisato appear out of nowhere, and Yukari realizes that they are all going home. Sometime later, they are all back at school, and the summer vacation is over. Mika is of course complaining about how short it was, and as she is, the others walk off and then she chases after them. The end. But it's actually not the end, because there is a bonus chapter, and it's even more pervy than the romance between an actual adult and an actual child. Mika is walking home from school when a gust of wind makes her worry that someone will be able to see her underwear. And then she smells a smell and starts walking towards the direction of the smell like a Scooby-Doo character. She meets up with the others later and tells them about the smell and the gust of wind. Chisato says that it's a sign of getting sprayed with fairy dust, and when Mika asks what that means, Chisato just walks off. Later we see Mika walking in the moonlight and worrying about what Chisato says, before she runs into someone that she doesn't recognize, but feels that she knows in a way. She realizes that the smell is back as she passes the stranger she just had a short interaction with, and when she turns around to see who it was, he's gone. She doesn't quite understand what is happening and feels like she's fading in and out and that something is wrong. Later at school, she walks up to Yukari, and Yukari doesn't know who she is, and Mika doesn't know who Yukari is either. She sees Yukari on the street kissing Kitamura, and later Chisato running towards or away from something, and then she runs up to Mika and curses her, telling that she brought great misfortune upon them ever since she just appeared one day. Later we see Mika in front of a naked man, and it's Saeki. She starts to fade away, and then Saeki says something about the fairy world before it all fades to black. Now she's back in the mist world where she met Sakura, and she asks why she's here and how Sakura is doing. Mika then herself says that she's exhausted and tired of pretending, and sad that Yukari and Chisato are upset at her. And Sakura tells her to just kill Chisato. And then Mika repeats, kill, 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 murder. Kill, eradicate. Next we see Chisato covered in blood and wondering what Mika is doing here. Mika says her house is right over there, and Chisato says so don't worry about it. You don't need to go there anymore. They don't need you. Mika asks about the blood, but Chisato tells her to calm down and says that she did it for her, and that she doesn't think that she's a bother, and that her family was just in the way. She says they screamed and wept, and it was all so pathetic. She says her family was filth, and that they reek. Mika is paralyzed with fear, and Chisato tells her that she hopes she finds happiness, and then the fairy dust flies from Chisato onto Mika. Now she's opposite the strange boy, who she feels like she knows but can't quite place. He tells her that she's remembering things that didn't happen to her, but to someone else, somewhere else, another version of her. And then it feels like things restart, like Mika has been transported into another world. And she seems to realize that she's been transported into another world. It's another world where things didn't quite turn out like they did in her old world. And she then sees Yukari and Chisato, and she runs up to them, and she realizes that this is the day they met in the other world. And in this world, on this day, she decides to start their friendship back all over. And as if magic, Yukari and Chisato recognize her for now. But things will not be like they used to be. And that is the end of Kyuumei-Hen. But like Tansaku-Hen, it is not the end of our journey, and Moonlight Syndrome will pick right back up from where we left the characters just moments ago. If you're completely lost on what just happened in the epilogue, don't worry, so was I, but it will all make sense in Moonlight Syndrome. All of the scenes we just saw are from that game, and that game will provide context for most of them. I don't want to give anything away, but something happened when the Syndrome gang was in the town of Dusk. Something latched onto them, not out of malice, but because it needs help. And when they exited the Dusk world, they didn't end up in the same worlds they left from, if that makes sense. And it's gonna royally fuck up their lives for a while. And when we boot up Moonlight Syndrome, things will not be as they were in Twilight Syndrome. It's a whole other world, you could say, because it is a whole other world. I like Kyuumei-Hen quite a bit more than I do Tansaku-Hen. You can tell that Suda was more involved this time and wasn't just trying to salvage a project. The greater emphasis on investigations that tie into the law of the universe were greatly appreciated. The Town of Dusk is absolutely haunting, and I love that it's connected to so many of the other investigations like the last train from the previous game. Moonlight will be different, and I'm here for it, and I will see you when we get to that one. Take care and good night.